Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So after this morning's council meeting, we'll follow on with the today's strategy and policy meeting, which I will declare open, SPC 23/5. We should start with a karakia. Whakatau mai te wairua, whakawātea mai te hinanaro, whakarite mai te tinana, kia ea ai ngā mahi. Ai. Please note this meeting is being live streamed and the consequences of that. I have an apology from Anne Henry and Councillor Sol, and Grant Daly has just walked in the room. So can I have a mover and a seconder to accept the apologies of Councillor Sol and Councillor Henry, please? Councillor Thwaites, Councillor Joyce, all those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. No consideration of late items. Does anyone have a declaration of interest?
Isn't it a conflict of interest?
No, it's a declaration of interest.
Yes.
Thank you. No public excluded items. I'm not aware of anyone for a public forum. No presentation, so we'll move to the reports. Item 10.1 on page 7 to 9. Submission on Hei Tohu Huarahi Maori language, Maori bilingual traffic signs consultation. Is there anyone to introduce this? Matt.
Good morning. I'm happy for the report to be taken as read. We've discussed this submission previously and it's been submitted. Happy to answer a question.
Were any questions from councillors? Councillor Joyce and then Councillor Granger.
Can we change our process so that the final version is distributed around the council? In the age of email, you know, we have our workshop and then it disappears and it comes back after it's been submitted. So we don't, you know, I mean, I do think one or two things we talked about is not reflected here. I don't want to bore everybody with the details, but I do think in this modern age of fast communications that we can be a little bit more interactive rather than just presenting these things after they've already been submitted. There's not much point discussing them now, is there?
Well, they're not ready to be discussed. It's more to note what has been sent and to publicly do that.
Yeah, I understand that, but yeah, we have a workshop, we discuss it, we don't actually see the final version before it goes in, and there's certainly processes available to enable us to do so in the modern age.
Right. I will bear that in mind. It's a suggestion that could be, yeah.
Okay,
Well, thinking about. Did you want to?
Can I just add, it's within the mayor's delegations to sign off on submissions. It doesn't have to go through a council approval process beforehand. I do take your point on board.
I'm not talking about putting it through a committee before it goes in, because that would be quite limiting, because you know we don't want to call committee meetings at the drop of a hat. But it's more about being collaborative and consultative around the council table. So yeah, here's the last look. Let me know if you've got anything, you know, quickly, or else it goes in like this. You know, I'm not talking about reopening the can of worms or anything. I just think we just, you know, in a modern age, in a collaborative manner, which you know we've been told, then we could actually put things around the council before they're finalised. Council members.
So that's a slightly different aspect to what I thought. I think it's not unreasonable to see the submissions after they've gone in, but having a last minute say on them could be problematic. I mean, sometimes these are done with a few hours to spare, and having 12 people trying to make all kinds of changes at the last minute could get very complicated.
Yeah, I mean, I think we don't want the sometimes to rule out collaboration all the time. You know, if it's an urgent one, I mean, and our government has dropped us in it, has been noted in one of the submissions, you know, that we're looking at today, has dropped us in it in terms of last minute and very short time frames. Yes, in some cases it might be impractical, but in other cases it will be practical.
Yep. Okay. Councillor Granger.
Thank you. You were just picking up on Matt's point there. So is the submission, it says we all the way through, but is it ours or is it yours? Because there's things in here that were never even discussed at the workshop that we agreed to. So I'd like some clarity on that.
It is my name on the bottom, but I asked Matt what the status of how that works.
As previously raised, it's a council submission. the mayor has delegations to sign off on the submissions. So the mayor signs it off on behalf of council as an organisation.
Okay, so when did we even discuss signs that had two translations on them?
I believe we had a workshop on it. I can't recall the exact date. but,
We had a workshop on this topic and we discussed it with councillors. That informed the submission that the mayor then signed.
That specifically talked about having two different translations of the Maori on the same site. I must have been asleep at the time. And also, because I certainly don't recall ever hearing about signs that would have three sets of words on.
I'm not aware we have multiple Maori translations on. I'm not aware we're suggesting we have multiple
Well, it
translations.
says we would also like to acknowledge our support for some signs having two translations provided to account for dialectical differences. So there's English and two different dialectal differences. So that's three, if I can count correctly.
My understanding of that was more that it was some translations might be different in various parts of the country.
Right. Yes, okay. Could be read that way. Thank you. And the other one was that there was a very strong feeling, I thought, around the table that we preferred the English one at the top for tourists and what have you. And that didn't come out in the submission at all.
I think during the workshop, from my recollection, it was as long as they're sufficiently differentiated, that's what I picked up from elected members, that as long as they're differentiated, that was the important thing. Councillor Coxon, did you?
Actually, what Murray said was what I wanted to say,
Okay.
so he stole my thunder.
Okay, so if there's no further questions, sorry, Councillor Mobench, please go ahead.
I just think that the community would be grateful if the English was first and the Maori underneath, because when you're driving, you haven't necessarily got time to see the signs and you have to see them several times to actually get the full story. So the simply in English, I think, is fairness to everybody. And I would have liked to have seen that as being one of the requirements, because I agree with Murray and Tracy. We did debate that in the workshop. So can't do anything about it now, but it's just an issue that I think is something that people would appreciate out there in the community.
Appreciate your views, thank you. If there's no further questions, I'll call for a mover and seconder to receive the report and the information noted. Councillor Crawford, Councillor Mobench, all those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. So moving to the submission on Water Services Entities Amendment Bill, pages 10 to 19. Ariel, if you'd like to introduce this one, please.
Good afternoon. As you know, we made a submission on the Water Services Entities Amendment Bill. And one of the key points we raised in that submission was around our ability to continue to collect, charge and collect financial contributions. So subsequent to the submission, the bill had its third reading yesterday in the House and it will gain royal assent, I'm assuming as a bundle with some of the other bills that also got passed yesterday and with the bills that are expected to pass today. In terms of our submission, they have made amendments to continue to allow us to collect and charge and collect financial contributions. So that's good.
Any questions?
Could you repeat that last bit?
So they have made changes to the bill based on our submission to allow us to continue to charge and collect financial contributions.
Great. Okay, no more further questions. I'll call for a mover and seconder for that one, please. Councillor Granger, Councillor Coxhead, all those in favour, please say aye.
Can I comment, please?
Comment,
Yes. So I'm just,
bit late, but.
well, I mean, you didn't exactly give much time between calling for seconder and putting it to the vote.
Oh, so you want to?
I didn't want to do it during question time because that would be bad.
Gotcha. No, okay, I hear what you say. Go ahead.
And I appreciate the changes made after the workshop, particularly around the short notice and some of the other things that we complained about. And I certainly appreciate this is seen by staff as a technical thing, and thank God they have let us keep FinCos, although I suspect this bill will be pretty short-lived. Can we just stop saying there's a broad range of views on the merits of the overall reform around our council table? Because it's not true. We voted 11-1 to join C4LD, so that's not a broad range of opinions. So I think this thing's going to be dead by Christmas anyway. But I realise everybody's trying to fit around everybody's points of view, but actually there's not a broad range of opinions around the council table.
I think
The
you find
council-
that there are.
Well, then we voted 11-1 in principle to join C4LD. So I'm happy if there's a broad range of people want to disagree, but that is actually what we did.
That CFLD, there are multiple outcomes from what that would entail. So there are still a broad range of views on the issue of joining CFLD specifically. I agree. The vote suggests it wasn't a broad range of views, but on the reforms as a whole, there are a broad range of views.
So can I ask that before we say that again, that we actually just check around the council, not today, because I think this is going to be dead by Christmas anyway. But if it's not dead by Christmas, then let's actually make sure that we have a clear idea of what the views are around the council table before we put any more submissions in.
Ariel.
I note your comment. That particular comment went in after the workshop because it was raised that I had put support and that wasn't quite the view of the people sitting around the table. So I specifically had made that change to reflect that.
And I do appreciate that. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded and no further debate. In which case I shall put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. So now moving to item 10.3 on pages 20 to 24, investigation of the options for funding growth-related infrastructure.
Good afternoon, Mayor and councillors. So this report follows, I guess, a number of conversations that you've had relating to the wider web that is FinCos. We had a review done earlier this year that identified some issues with the model, and as a result, we did further consultation around the financial contributions proposed for 23-24. There are some wider findings that we need to look at, but also you have options in terms of considering not only proceeding with financial contributions, but considering moving to a development contributions regime. And there's also other possible considerations that might emerge through other legislation as well, for example, through the RMA reform. So this report really is just to provide a line in the sand and direction from you that you would like us to keep working on these matters. It doesn't commit you to transition to development contributions regime, but we will keep doing work towards that, with that in mind potentially.
Okay, thank you, Emily. Councillor Murray Bench.
Happy to move the recommendation when you're ready.
Okay, before I go with that, with any questions? Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour.
I'm not against the idea of progressing this, but the discussions about development contributions, but I know a comment by the Chief Executive recently that most councils in New Zealand use the development contributions model. But it's worth reflecting that it's not that long ago, within the last previous triennium, the government was moving to abolish the opportunity to use financial contributions anyway. And this council lobbied very strongly under the previous mayor for the right to continue with financial contribution. So I'm just wondering, is there, do we have any information on how that process might have influenced councils to change to development contributions, or has that not really changed, say, over the last 5 years?
I'll pass to Rachel to answer that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think, well, the first thing to say is that the resource management legislation reform contemplates a move away from financial contributions anyway. It does create another mechanism, and I think they're referenced as environmental charges, environmental contributions. We will soon see, as those bills receive royal assent, exactly what the form and function of environmental contributions looks like. And that will be part of the consideration, part of the suite of considerations through this piece of work. But I would suggest that the amendment to the Local Government Act in 2002 was the primary catalyst for the majority of councils in the country moving to development contributions. So most of those development contributions councils made a decision a long time ago.
Okay, any further questions? In which case, Councillor Mo Benj, you've moved, and Councillor Joyce, you've seconded. Oh, please do.
I think, Sue, that the work that we've been going through, and when we did the financial contributions, as Rachel is saying, it seemed we were one of the few councils that was using financial contributions, and we seem to think that we were on the right track. I think it's been healthy for us to review that, and the crunch question will be, with the amount of contributions that now are being demanded, whether that kills the development at the likes of a Mokoroa. So I think it's, but I accept that it's been a reasonably robust process that we've gone through, and we've had outside information to help us as well. So I just sort of think this is the next step, Sue.
Yeah.
You going to speak to it?
I take your point. It's opening the door to investigations. We certainly should do that. I think the environment, dare I say it, has changed with very few other councils now using FinCos, and we can't really expect Parliament to keep it just for us. So that makes it a bit difficult. I would, yeah, we can try. We're important. I think the most important thing to me is on page 22 of the paper. Yeah, FinCos can be charged to the Crown, and hello, what a surprise. Development contribs can't be charged to the Crown. Well, how do they slip that one through? You know, we already have a problem with, you know, not enough resources to do what we need to do. You know, my view on how much we can push up rates. So, and I know I'm not the only one. So, gosh, what a fish hook that one is. But other than that, it's great that we're investigating it.
Yeah. Before I put the motion, there's a change that so I've just been alerted to, and that is our recommendation 4 on the word that says final indicative financial contributions. That word indicative should not be there.
Say that again, sir. On 4.
Yes, so I'll just find the right. So on the third line of recommendation 4, the word indicative should not be there. Are you both happy to change that? Thank you. Right. Okay, with that minor change and correction, if there's no further debate, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. So there was no further information for receipt. That brings us to the end of the meeting, and